Hi, so today what we're going to be doing is going over the methods that I use to do my carving. And what I'm doing today is I have an SPQR and some laurel leaves that I'm going to be carving into the guard of the gladius that I'm currently working on. So I have the guard right here. So you can see I have the silver kind of bolstery area at the top, all assembled on here, and I've cleaned up all my edges. Now that's really important because if you leave spots that you need to have cleaned up, and that you're going to be taking down material, and you have to do that after you're done carving, you can end up getting into your carving and lessening the amount of relief that you have. So you want to make sure that all of those corners that need to get flushed down and all lined up, you get that all done before you start your carving. You can also see that I have some reference lines that I've drawn on here, and those are just done in pencil. You want to make sure that it's something that's not going to soak into the wood or bone or whatever it is that you're carving. And what I have is my little emblem here that I'm going to be carving. So that, you can see, will line up with the edges that I drew in, my pencil lines. And it's going to line up with just the top of the guard. And so that's how I have my references. And I'm going to be using a 3M adhesive to spray on the back of it and use that to stick it down. It ends up working pretty well, and then you can just peel away everything else afterwards. One of the tips that one of the things that I like to do with this is get everything on the computer, whether you're going to scan it or draw it on the computer or however you're going to do that. Once you have it, if you put it into Microsoft Word, you can change the size ratio. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but this is just kind of the way that I've learned to do it, because it allows you to adjust size very easily. So once you have your image scanned in, you can change it to fit whatever size surface that you're trying to get your you do your carving in. So I've gotten it sized, and I'm going to go ahead and spray it down, and then we will move to the next step here. So I have my piece right here. I'm just going to go ahead, spray that down. And now get it lined up. And this is nice because you can slide it around a little bit as it's drying. And you just want to smooth it out, make sure that you don't have any big bubbles or anything behind the areas that you're going to be carving. Everything's nicely stuck down. And it's nice because you can, like I said, slide it around a little bit and get everything nicely adjusted. Make sure that you stay within all your lines and everything. And there it is. Now I just got to let that set and dry for just a moment. Alright, so now that we have the image glued on, what we're going to do is, I got a nice swivel vise here, which is a pretty amazing tool to have if you're going to be doing a lot of carving. And I got a turbo carver here with just a very small carbide burr on the end, and that's going to allow me to get in and do all the little detail bits. In the end, what's going to happen is, as I'm carving this, it's going to kind of fray out on the edges of the paper. But that's not too big a deal, because what's going to end up happening is, once I get all the lines pretty well roughed in, I'm going to peel this off, and then I'm just going to refine it by freehanding it. But starting out with this template really, gets you moving in the right direction. So, get this guy going. I'm going to start with the lettering. And I'm going nice and slow, and I'm not really trying to go terribly deep. You want to make sure you get enough depth that you're not just going through the paper and not really making too much of a mark. But I'm not, like I said, trying to go super deep. I'm taking my time. If there's some of the finer detail that I leave out right now, that's not too big a deal. You can always go back and refine what we're doing. I always want to make sure that you're nice and braced so you don't have a shaky hand. You can see I'm taking even a couple passes before I get completely through the paper, just to make sure that I'm carving the right line. You see what I'm saying about things fraying out, especially if you have like the center of an O or a T, you know, in the R, it's going to be the same thing. Where once that piece is cut out, I mean, it's still glued on, but it's a little frayed, and the smaller that bit is, the more likely that is to kind of just flop around on you. Now we'll just skip ahead to the point where we're going to remove our paper. Alright, so you can see that we got all our laurels carved in, and so now what we're going to do is just peel back this paper. So I've gone through and cleaned it up a little bit. All of this carving that I'm doing right now is intended to have some paint put in it, so I'm not too worried about that texture at the base of the carving. You could go through and clean all that up. But since I'm going to be painting it, it's not too big a deal. In order to get some of the finer points here, you can see, you know, it's ending with bits that are a bit thinner than my burr is. So since the burr, see if we focus there, has a square end, using that corner to, you know, just thin out a tip is a good method to use when you're trying to get a line that's thinner than the thickness of your burr. And this is a pretty fine burr, as you saw before, but you know, the carving that I did here was fairly fine. You know, we have nice definition on our lettering, and the laurels, they look all right at the moment. I might go through and touch up a little bit more in my tips. But one good way to check out how things are looking is take a bit of sandpaper and just go over everything, and that the dust that you get will go into your carving, and you can see, you know, it came out. It's going to be pretty good. I have a little bit more to clean up as far as like a little bit of ragged sides here, but I'll go in and touch that up, and I'm going to continue to do all that with that little burr. What I have for my I use this magnifier in order to see what I'm doing and get a little bit more close up. I know a lot of people use magnifying glasses and whatnot, but you know, I find this to work pretty well. So anyways, that's a quick once over on how I do a bunch of my carvings, and I'll throw some paint in this and show you a quick shot of it once it's all finished up. So we got a bit of paint on there, and I'm just using a Rust-Oleum. It doesn't really matter too much what kind of paint, as long as it's going to give you the right kind of color and sheen that you're looking for. And so now let that dry a bit, and then let's go over some sandpaper. Sorry. And got a little brush.